In March 2024, I spent 1 month in Cambodia, and these are my recommendations. While the high season in Cambodia is from November up to April, I would say that when I was there in March, it was dry, it didn't rain, but it was so hot. Like, I remember in the beginning of March, it was like 34 degrees Celsius during the day, and by the end of March it was 37, 38 degrees of Celsius. So it was hot, and it made it difficult to visit some sites. So my recommendation would be that the best weather to visit Cambodia is in December and January, when it's dry and it's not that hot, because Cambodia is a country that is always warm and almost always hot. Siem Reap is absolutely very affordable destination. For example, I booked my hostel for 2.5 euros per night, and this hostel was amazing. It had a pool, it had common room, it was very well organized. I cannot say anything bad about the hostel. I was happy with it, although it was so cheap. And there are so many hostels in Siem Reap that are in the same range, like 3 euros, 4 euros. The selection is like huge. And also with the food in Siem Reap, I would say that it's quite easy to find a dish for 2.5 euros or $2.5, and these are good dishes. You are still going to a restaurant and eating a meal for 2.5 euros, so it is affordable for sure. The only expensive thing in Siem Reap is visiting the Angkor Wat, and the ticket prices are $37 for 1 day, and for 2 and 3 days it's around $60 and $70. So, yep, life in Siem Reap is cheap, and visiting Angkor Wat is not that cheap. However, when it comes to Phnom Penh, the capital city, then life there is more expensive. You can still find quite cheap accommodation, hostels or private rooms. It's not as cheap as Siem Reap, but it's still quite good. Hostels you can find starting from 5 euros up to 20, and then private rooms also, actually they start at 5 and go up from there. And the selection is not as good as in Siem Reap, but the selection is also quite okay. So accommodation wise, it's not too bad. Then transport, it's maybe not as cheap as in some neighboring countries, but it's still doable. It didn't feel like too expensive. For example, the bus from Siem Reap up to Phnom Penh, which took from 8 up to 3 p.m., it costed $9, and the bus was really, really nice. So, and the prices are around there. So the transport is, I would say, pretty nice and pretty affordable. But now I come to the category that made Cambodia for me to feel expensive. And this is actually food, groceries, and also convenience stores and even the restaurants. So yes, you can get meals at the street. So I remember at this very typical street cafe where also locals eat, mostly locals ate there. We were like the special ones there as tourists. This costs about 7,000 reals is like the typical price. So it's little less than $2, and for that you can eat on the streets. And when you go to the restaurant or coffee shop, then the prices were higher than in the neighboring countries and also in the convenience stores. And I remember I was constantly shocked about the prices for almost everything. And it was just expensive compared to other countries. Like, for example, when I went to get ice cream, exactly the same ice cream as I was used to getting in Thailand or in Vietnam, and I went there, and the ice cream, I think it was €2.50, and in other countries it was around €1, the same ice cream. So, and this was the kind of difference I saw everywhere, at least double the price or 3 times the price for so many items, also in the convenience stores. So, of course, at the streets you can still get like cheaper things, like we used to get this special passion fruit cream drinks, which were €1.5, and yeah, but a lot of things, they were not that cheap. It actually felt like you're not getting a deal, like you just pay what you pay. You know, if you come as a tourist, then maybe this difference, you don't even recognize it because you come for a short time, and still the accommodation is super affordable and transport is also fine. So you maybe don't recognize it, but as I have been traveling already longer, for me, in Cambodia, I even didn't want to write down my expenses in the evening, because it was like when I was in Laos, I just could go out, eat anything I want, just buy stuff from here, there, grocery stores, you know, everything. And I go back in the evening and I feel like I have, you know, spent loads, like I have bought loads of stuff, and it was about 7-8 euros. While in Cambodia, you go out, you try to save everywhere, you really don't want to spend, and you really try, and you go back home and it might be $15 what you spent during the day. Yeah, so that's my experience, but definitely you can still do Cambodia cheaply, food-wise. You just need to eat at the street, the local food. But Cambodia is one very special country. So they have 2 currencies. They have the USD and they have the real. And you can pay in both in majority of the places. I never met, I was never in a situation where I could not pay in either of these. So which one to prefer? When I went to Cambodia, my friend told me to get dollars because they are more comfortable to use. So I got from the ATM $200 and starting using these comfortable dollars. It was a good learning experience. Yes, it's easier to pay in, with dollars, considering that $1 is 4,000 reals, so it's much, you need to carry like less cash or less, you are less confused about the notes. But I could not believe how difficult it is to pay in dollars in Cambodia. Like, they are very, very picky about the dollar notes, and they don't care about reals. You can pay with a real note that is ripped, that is like broken, it's written on something, and you can pay with it. But dollars, there are so many issues with them. First, if there is even a small rip, like even 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters of little bit of rip in the note, no, not accepted. If there is anything wrong with a note, you know, if it looks old or if somebody has written something on it, they don't accept it. I have even heard of stories that when you pay with $100 note, they take it, they change it into a copy, they tell you you cannot pay with it, and they give you the copy and take the real one. And there are several people like telling this kind of stories. So basically, when paying with dollars, it's always like hassle. For me, in the beginning, I didn't know. I was like, what's the big deal? Like, I just pay in dollars. But the first time when I was just trying to get the drink and the seller told me that, no, I don't accept this $5 because it has like tiny rip in it, which I didn't even recognize. It felt so bad. And then it started happening again and again and again. And I tried to pay with $2 note, not accepted in the whole country. The $2, even though it's legal official note, no, you cannot pay with it. They just called the manager who told me, you're not paying with it. Like, it's a rare note and they just don't accept it. And of course, and if you go with your $100, then almost nobody wants to accept it. They don't want to deal with such big notes. So basically every time I paid with dollars, I found myself having anxiety because they were checking the note like this, like to see any issue with it, and then they decided if they accept it or not. And knowing that if I get from them some ripped or whatever dollars in bad condition, that I'm not able to pay with those, then I turned into the similar kind of person. I just took the note and I checked it, and I was like, I got my change, and then I was looking at them one by one, and often there are some issues with the notes, and then you need to go through all this, oh guys, this note is not good enough, and then you need to argue, or I don't know, like I'm not accepting it, you take it back, and so on. So I would say in Cambodia, my dollars, different kinds of dollars, were not accepted at least 3 times. And it was really annoying because you have the money, but you cannot pay with it. And getting cash from the machine is expensive. Like for one withdrawal, I paid more than 10 euros, the fees. So I know that if I cannot pay with this cash, I need to get new cash, and this is expensive. And yeah, it was like a little bit like annoying and stressful. So basically I just I turned very, very fast into the real kind of person. Like I only paid with reals everywhere, and I wanted to get reals. I didn't want to see any dollars because it was just too much. I remember when I paid at the museum, S21 museum, I paid with $50, and they gave me 2 20s, and one of them was ripped, and there was something written on the note, and I discovered it a little bit later. I was so stressed. I was sure I cannot use this $20 anywhere. But I just tried, because when I went to the next museum, I just I turned it to the side that there was nothing written on, and I was like, let's hope. I was sure they don't accept it, but maybe at the museums they're a little bit less, stressed, because they know they can give this 20 to the next person in 5 minutes, because there's so many dollars coming in and going out. So luckily they accepted it, but I'm sure none of the shops would have ever accepted this note. So I would prefer Reels if you don't want to go through all this stress. If you have $100 somehow and you wonder where you can pay with it, so to get change, usually I found that 7-Eleven is quite good place to get change for $100. They were pretty good with it. They didn't have any issues with $100. And yeah, guys, just use Reels. The dollar thing is not worth the hassle. Transport was actually pretty nice in Cambodia, and mostly I used the tuk-tuk that you can order from the app, and I used Grab app. There are two apps, Bus Up and Grab. I downloaded both, and I couldn't connect my foreign credit card to the Bus Up, but I could very, very easily pay with my card linked to the app with Grab. So I started preferring Grab right away because of this payment option. And it's really easy. Like in Phnom Penh, to get tuk-tuk via app, usually they are there in 1 minute. It's so comfortable. And the cost, like when I was staying like at the far end of Phnom Penh, and it was, I think, around like 7 kilometers to the town center. Yeah, then I paid around $3 for the trip. And usually the trip took me about 40 minutes, maybe, around there, 30, 40, depending from the traffic. And when you take it for the shorter distance, it's even like $1 or less than one. So it is comfortable, it is easy, and very quick. Like tuk-tuk taxi was absolute hit in Phnom Penh. Everybody was using it, and I loved it because I don't like motorbike taxis for safety reasons. I always prefer the real taxi, but the real taxi is always like so much more expensive. But in this case, I could prefer something that is safer than the motorbike taxi, but not as expensive as the real taxi. So for me, it was win-win. So Siem Reap is absolutely fine. It's a safe town. It has loads of tourists, and I think the biggest problem that you could have in Siem Reap is getting scammed. So just be cautious. Book your taxis and everything. Book it through your hostel or hotel. That will be mostly a really good way to avoid any kind of scamming. But Siem Reap was absolutely fine, no issues there. Now, when I went to Phnom Penh, which is well known as not safe town, and there are also travelers who don't go there because of it, and people are like a little bit afraid of Phnom Penh, and also me, I was afraid. Not like scared, but when I got to Phnom Penh, I remember the first day I just put my phone into my bag and and looks around, and I was much more cautious than in other countries around Cambodia. But then I learned that yes, you need to be a little bit more careful in Phnom Penh. It's not like Chiang Mai in Thailand, where when you lose your wallet, you just next day go to the police station and it's there and it has all your money, and or when you leave your phone on the table for half an hour and forget about it in random place in town, you come back and your phone is still there. Yeah, Phnom Penh is not this kind of safe, but I think just it's less safe than the big cities in its neighbor countries. But when you think overall safety, I think Phnom Penh is the city where you actually need to start thinking about safety. Like let's say at night, should you actually take a taxi? I think yes, from longer distances, and also when you are in tuk-tuk, you cannot be too careless. You should take care of your stuff and not make it too easy for people to snatch your bag or phone, because these things have happened. But honestly, when I was taking tuk-tuks in Phnom Penh, it was okay. I was careful, but I didn't feel like the way I felt in Kampala, in Uganda, or in Nairobi, in Kenya, where the moment you have the phone in your hand, it can be snatched in 5 seconds. So just take the normal precautions. I would say the only place where I felt a little bit not unsafe, but maybe not comfortable, was the riverside walk in Phnom Penh in the night, because also it didn't have any lights, and there were people begging and homeless people and so on. So it was this kind of setting where in any town I wouldn't go there, especially being alone and at night. So I just walked there to get the experience, but I also left pretty quickly because I got the experience. It was enough, but anywhere else in Phnom Penh, yes, local people were worried about my stuff, and they are worried about you. There was this one woman who, when I was out at the market at 9 p.m. and she saw that I had my phone in my hand, she gave me a black plastic bag and told me to put the phone into the bag so it would not be visible. So yes, just take care of your stuff, and but don't be afraid. It's not worse than any big city in Europe where all these same kind of things could easily happen. Just it's not as safe as some super safe countries or super safe towns in Southeast Asia. Angkor Wat is the main site in Cambodia for sure. And before I got there, I was not, sure about how to visit it, how many days I need, how can I actually visit it. You have 3 options for tickets. It's the 1-day pass, $37, 3 days pass, $62, and 1 week pass, $72. I took the 1-day pass and I cycled the Angkor Wat. I got a rental bicycle for $3 from my hostel, and I cycled from my hostel up there, and I cycled the whole thing. I would recommend cycling when the weather is not too hot, maybe in December and January. or if you know that you can manage the hot weather, because it was hot in March. I was fine because I'm used to the hot weather and doing physical activities in hot weather, but I imagine that it would not be very nice thing for, you know, so many people who are not used to the hot weather. So cycling in general, while it was amazing, don't do it when the weather is hot, because even at Angkor Wat, I could see so many people underestimating the heat in March when they just try to walk the temples and visit the temples. It was not easy for many people, because around 11 you get full sun, it's 34, 35, 36 degrees, there is no shade, and you are exploring the temples. So how many days? I would say, if you are not maybe that interested in the temples, or you want to keep the budget low, or, you know, whatever reason, 1 day is still fine. You can do the temples in 1 day, and a lot of people even say that 1 day is more than enough, because like they got tired of temples. But I felt that 1 day was not enough, and actually I had made my plans in this way, but I would have definitely enjoyed doing Angkor Wat for 3 days, because there are over 70 main temples which are spread out in a very wide area. So, and visiting one temple might take a few hours, and then you go to the next one and next one and next one. Like, for example, I went to the main temple, Angkor Wat main temple, and I was there from 6 in the morning until 10, so 4 hours. And then after that I went to another one, and I felt like I didn't have enough time. And also, if you spread the temple visits out for many days, then you can avoid the heat. I mean, you can visit temples in the morning, you can go have a break, and you can come back in the evening. So if I would do it again, I would get the 3-day pass, because yes, it might be $62, but I think those $62 are worth it, because Angkor Wat is pretty special. The size of this temple complex, or like temples everywhere, it's pretty crazy. It's something that, I understand why it's famous. It's special. And to give you some idea of distances, so first, to get to the main temple from town, from Siem Reap to the main temple, it was 7 kilometers. So I cycled first 7 kilometers, I got to the main temple. The road is pretty okay, you can cycle it. Then it was even well lit for most of the trip, and it was really nice. And then you have the main temple there, you have few other temples around it, and then you proceed again few kilometers, maybe 2-3 kilometers, you have another temple, and there in that area you have a little bit more temples. And from there on, like, just to get to next temple and next temple, it might be like 6 kilometers to next temple, or 4 or 2. So I think by the end of my day, I cycled for sure more than 30 kilometers, just even up to 40, just to get to different temples. So some people ask if it's possible to do it by feet or by foot. I don't think so. Like, yes, you can too, but then you can visit only very few temples which are close to each other, and you limit yourself a lot, and it will be tough to walk all these distances. And yeah, the distances are just huge. And also, sunrise is great. I really was happy that I decided to go to Angkor Wat by sunrise, although I really didn't want to, because I did not want to wake up at 5, but I did it. And it's just such a great start for your day, and you, the sunrise and the cool weather and everything. Like, I really enjoyed this first like hours up to 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. It was really nice. And also after that, then it's hot. Yeah, but yeah, the morning was good. Sunrise was worth it. Sunset, like the sunset, I was there from sunset, and there was even like no sunset. Like, the sun is setting to opposite side of the temple, so there is no like color came or anything. It's not special, at least in my experience. But sunrise, yeah, go for it. While Angkor Wat was amazing, I also can recommend another site that for me was at least as amazing as Angkor Wat. And this is S21 Museum in Phnom Penh and Killing Fields also in Phnom Penh. So usually the good thing is to do them one after another, to start at the S21 Museum and then proceed to the Killing Fields. And I would say take one full day to do both of them, because you want to have your time, you want to take your time, you want to do it in a good space. So S21 is museum, and it used to be the prison for people who died in the genocide in 75 to 79 in Cambodia. And the entry ticket is $10 with the audio guide. Audio guide is 100% worth it. Just take it with the audio guide. And they have great stories in the audio guide, and it's really, really good museum visit. 10 out of 10. And then from there you can take tuk-tuk up to the Killing Fields. I would say museum takes you maybe 2 to 3 hours, and Killing Fields maybe 1 to 2 hours, around there. And we had lunch in between of those two, so it was a great day in total. Killing Fields ticket is $6 without your guide. Yeah, definitely. It was one of my most memorable days of the trip, visiting those two museums. Overall, what made the visit to Cambodia really amazing for me were the people. As I volunteered in Phnom Penh for almost 4 weeks, I could meet a lot of people, and I can tell you, Cambodian people are really sincere, they are really nice, they are really helpful. They were a little bit similar to people in Portugal, but like maybe at the next level. So whenever you have chance, also maybe you can have like a homestay or meet some local people. It will be definitely worth it. So overall, if you are thinking about visiting Cambodia, I can recommend it 100%. And there are some very interesting sites, as I just told you, that definitely will impress you. And overall, people are just nice, and the country is a great country to visit.